Hello and welcome to another video on completing the square. In previous videos we've learnt about factorising quadratics using this technique, but we've only applied that to expressions that look like this so far. So all of these expressions, the coefficient in front of the x squared term has always been 1, so these have all been 1x squared. So in this video we're going to learn about using this technique but applying it to an expression that has a coefficient greater than 1. Okay. Now, in order to complete the square, the coefficient has to be 1. So before we go any further, we're going to have to manipulate this so that we get x squared on its own. So how we do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is to factor out a 2 from this expression. Now, I'm going to factor out a 2, but I'm only going to factor out a 2 from this part of my expression. And the reason I'm doing that is because this plus 2 here, this doesn't have any influence on how I complete the square. So I'm going to leave that on its own and just focus on this part in the blue. So if I factor a 2 from this part of the expression, I factor a 2, what I'm left with in my brackets is x squared plus 4x. And then I've got that plus 2 hanging out the back there. Okay, and now I've got x squared on its own, or with a coefficient of 1, now I can complete the square. So I'm just going to rewrite this. But again, like before, I'm going to leave a space. And the reason I've left the space is so that I can complete my square. So I take half the coefficient in front of x and then square it. So half of 4 is 2, 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to write plus 4 here so that now I've got a perfect square. But at this stage, I just want you to pause the video and think about what I've actually added on. Although I've written plus 4, have I added on 4 to my expression? And think about what I did right at the very beginning. Okay, I'm assuming you paused the video and had a think about that. And although I've written plus 4, I haven't actually added on 4 to my expression. Because if you think about what's going on in these brackets here, everything inside these brackets is being multiplied by 2. So this x squared is being multiplied by 2. This is 2x squared, which is what we started with. This here, this is 2 times 4x, or 8x. So this 4, this is also being multiplied by 2. So I haven't added on 4, I've added on 2 lots of 4. Okay, so hopefully you can see that although I've written plus 4, what I've actually added on is 2 lots of 4. So I've added on 8 to my expression. So if I add on 8 to my expression, in order to keep the value the same from what we started with, I need to subtract 8 as well. And this step, this second step, is really important. This is where a lot of students slip up. A lot of people write plus 4 here and then minus 4. But remember, we're not adding on 4, we're adding on 2 lots of 4. So if we add on 2 lots of 4, we need to subtract 2 lots of 4 as well, or subtract 8. Okay, so let's carry on. So now this part here in the brackets we can factorise. So this is just x plus 2 squared. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, and then we've got plus 2 minus 8, which is minus 6, and we are done. This is our completed square form. So I'm going to do a few more examples, but before we go any further, just recap that and have a think about what I did, especially on this second step here, because this part is the part that trips a lot of students up. Okay, so let's go on to another example. So we're going to factorise this expression, and again the coefficient is greater than 1, so we're going to have to factor out a 2 from this expression firstly. So I'm going to factor out a 2 from this expression here. So in the brackets I'm going to be left with x squared plus 6x. Okay, 2 times x squared is 2x squared, 2 times 6x is 12x, and then I've got that minus 3 hanging out the back here. So now I've got x squared with a coefficient of 1, I can complete the square. So let's just rewrite this. X squared plus 6x, and let's write our space in, and then minus 3. So let's complete the square. Half of 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to write plus 9, but again, I haven't added on 9. Although I've written plus 9, I've added on 2 lots of 9. Because again, we factored out a 2 right from the very beginning. Everything inside these brackets is being multiplied by 2. So I've actually added on 2 lots of 9. So if I add on 2 lots of 9, I've added on 18. So if I add on 18, I need to subtract 18. And again, this second step is really crucial. Okay, now I've completed the square, I can factorise. So inside the brackets, I'm just left with x plus 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 plus 3 is 6. Then I've got minus 3 minus 18 is minus 21, and we are done. And that is our completed square form. Okay, got a couple more examples to do. So this time my coefficient is 3, so I'm going to have to factor out a 3 from my expression this time. So if I factor out a 3, I'm going to be left with x squared and then minus 4x. Okay, so I'm only factoring a 3 out of this part of my expression. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 4x is negative 12x. And again, as always, I've got that plus 2 at the back there. So now I can complete the square. So if I rewrite this, x squared minus 4x and leave my space, and then write plus 2. So half of negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4, so I'll write plus 4. But again, everything in these brackets is being multiplied by 3. So I haven't added on 4, I've added on 3 lots of 4, which is 12. So if I add on 12, I need to subtract 12 as well. Okay, so we've factorised. Now we've completed the square, so now we can factorise. So this bit in the brackets here, this just factorises to x minus 2 squared. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. And then I've got plus 2 minus 12. That just gives me minus 10. And we are done. Okay, let's do one more just to finish it off. Okay, so this time my coefficient is 4. So I'm going to have to factor out a 4 first of all. So 4, and then in brackets, x squared plus 3x, and then I've got minus 5. Okay, so now we can complete the square. So again, if I rewrite this, x squared plus 3x, and leave my space, and then write minus 5. Okay, so half of 3 is 3 over 2. If I write this up here, so half of 3 is 3 over 2, and then 3 over 2 squared gives me 9 over 4. So if I write plus 9 over 4 here, and again, I haven't added on 9 over 4, I've added on 4 times 9 over 4. So what is 4 times 9 over 4? Well, the 4's cancel. 4 times 9 over 4 is just 9. So, works out quite nicely. I've actually added on 9 to my expression. And again, just take your time and think about that. I've added on 4 over 9, but I've done that 4 times. So 4 lots of 9 over 4 is 9. So I've added on 9, so I need to subtract 9 as well. Okay, so now we can factorise. So this bit in brackets just factors to x plus 3 over 2 squared. And then we've got minus 5 minus 9 is minus 14. And we are done.